I can't just waltz up and say, "Hey, I'm a criminal, and I'd like to work for your organization."
Sure, so I'll just tell old crooks of this island that an international gun for hire is visiting Panau. Mr. Scorpion.
Just Cause 2. Fun and destruction and shit tons of explosions boogaloo. This is one of many sandbox games to come out of last generation, and in my opinion, it's definitely one of the better ones. The story follows CIA Special Agent Rico Suave as he is inserted into the Southeast Asian country of Panau, tasked with the mission of seeding discontent within the population in order to overthrow the government so that the next one that is ultimately put in place by the American government will play ball with Uncle Sam. Because that's what the CIA does. But let's just be honest here, the story to Just Cause 2 is better left not talked about, because it's kind of crap. What is interesting about the story, however, is how it's presented to you. Because in a lot of giant open world sandbox games, the story is sort of fed to you by go to this character, complete story mission, go to the next character, complete story mission, rinse repeat until you've beaten the story. In this game, not so much. They sort of play on the idea that instead of wanting to do the story missions, instead you're going to go faff about on the other side of the map as far away from the story mission as you possibly can be before you do anything, by saying, alright, you want to do a story mission? Fine, but you have to faff about X amount before we give it to you. And that is completely odd. I mean, I think part of the enjoyment of doing anything other than the story missions in these sort of games is the idea that you end up walking past, like, that dumb friend that you're annoyed with that you don't want to do a story mission, so you just sort of walk by, wave at him sometimes, and just picture how slowly frustrated he gets over the fact that you're not doing his story mission. And he's slowly dying of old age as you go and do anything else. Or, I guess in this case, imagine your CIA directors angrily shaking their fists at their secret camera monitors that they're watching you from as they notice that you're too busy blowing stuff up to actually do what they're asking you to do. But the thing is, you have to do that in order to actually do those missions, which sort of takes away from it a little because you don't get that sort of satisfaction of, oh, I'm not doing your stupid mission, I'm doing my own mission. No, instead, now you have to do whatever you want before you get there. And if you're the kind of person who, when they're presented with endless amounts of options and just sort of get paralyzed with indecision, like I sort of am, that's not necessarily the best thing. Fortunately, though, Just Cause 2 is an excellent open-world sandbox, so that's not really all that much of a problem for me, but I can see a lot of people having issue with that, especially if they're just interested in the story, because it does take a while to unlock bits of it, and there's only like, I think 7 of them, so there's not a lot of actual story here. It's not the most well-told or anything, and it's a pain in the ass to actually get to those bits when you do get them, so maybe don't play this game for the story, which is probably for the best because this game is an amazing open world sandbox that gives you a ridiculous number of toys to play with. I mean, yeah, you've got your standard open world sandbox thing of steal a car, shoot the guns, go shoot up civilians if you want, I guess, whatever. But no, first and foremost in this game's arsenal of awesome is a grappling hook and a parachute. Now, taken individually, those two things seem completely unrelated and have nothing to do with one another. However, when put together in this game, you have basically the ultimate mode of transportation. Activate your parachute, and then you can grapple along the road or mountains or whatever, and get basically wherever you need to be, provided it's not in like a giant open area of dead space directly above you. Aside from that, you can pretty much go anywhere with just the grappling hook and the parachute, which makes it a very versatile combination of tools that you're given right out of the gate. And if that wasn't enough, the parachute of course helps you survive far drops, which makes base jumping off cliffs and stuff a very real possibility in ways to maneuver around the environment, as well as jumping off planes, helicopters, what have you. Oh yeah, and because you've got the grappling hook, you can now steal those things while they're in the air. I'm just gonna let that sink in for a sec. Yeah, basically grappling hook and parachute is the best combination of things ever. To continue to point out how awesome these things are though, the grappling hook is probably the most versatile piece of combat equipment you've got. I mean, yeah, you can get from one place to another in the environment super quickly so you don't get horribly murdered, but at the same time, you could just grapple your opponent and then pull them off a cliff face, or hang them from another structure so they can't do anything to you. Or if you really want to stretch your creative muscles here, hookshot them to a explosive barrel, blow up the barrel, and watch them rocket off into space. Yeah, this game is way more awesome than it has any right to be, and I am absolutely thankful for it. But what's an open world sandbox without things to do? Well, you've got a ton of things to do, like an overwhelming amount. You have several thousand collectibles to collect, including upgrades and collectibles for money and like faction items as well, which are I think also used for money, so they're not that useful, but whatever. You have something like 400 different settlements to go liberate and blow stuff up in. You have over 100 different vehicles to try out. Now that said, most of the actual driving in this game, not so great. This game is definitely one that is mostly meant to be played in the air, whether you're in a helicopter, an airplane, or of course with the mighty grappling hook parachute combo. But still, there is a lot to do in terms of getting around and things to do and see. It's all very densely packed, and you're never going to be for want of anything to do because there's always going to be something to do. And you know, I think I mentioned this on my video about how game companies like to handhold you through all the cool moments to make sure you actually see cool moments in a game. This guy's the antithesis of that idea. This game sits you down and says, alright, you've got all the tools you need to go do some things, and we promise you cool stuff will happen. Case in point, every single time I wasn't recording footage for this game, I regretted it because something amazing happened and I absolutely wanted to record it. In fact, honestly, I think I'm probably just going to try and talk as much as I can just so I can show all the different cool things that happened to me while I was playing this game. Like, I'm intentionally trying to stretch this out now. But every time you play this game, it is going to be a highlight reel of incredibly awesome situations and wacky hijinks, and of course explosions and flips, shooting guns and buildings falling apart and world destruction, because it does that really well too. Basically, Just Cause 2 is amazing in terms of the world it sets you up in, and it's genuinely huge. It is set across several islands, and they are like kilometers apart, and they're all interconnected, which is good, but it's still going to take forever to see everything. And I guarantee there is tons of like hidden stuff you might not ever see unless you look really, really carefully. Like this one jump that absolutely needed to have a double-decker bus drive over it. Because, you know, double-decker buses, they're meant to be taken off large ramps, right? Right. This game also has a fair number of weapons, each of which are upgradable, although you have to collect various weapon upgrade kits to do so, and honestly, I don't think they feel all that much better when you do upgrade them, but, you know, at least it gives you a little bit more longevity as well. And there's a wide variety of them. Stuff like heavy machine guns, assault rifles, submachine guns, handguns, and you can equip up to 3, 2 sidearms and a main weapon at a time. Now, we sort of come to one of the few issues Just Cause 2 has, which is trying to outfit yourself. You're probably noticing at this point that a lot of the time I'm actually running around with 0 ammo. That's kind of intentional. See, there's 3 ways you can kit yourself out with weapons. The first is, of course, killing an enemy and stealing their weapons. Fair enough. The second is finding weapons and crates with ammo in them, usually at military complexes. You know, makes sense. And then the third way, which is supposed to be the most practical way, is contacting an arms dealer. But the thing is, to contact the arms dealer, you have to drop a beacon, which calls them, which requires you to watch a cutscene, which you can skip, but you still have to kind of watch it. Then you have to go through some menus, select what you want, select if you want to upgrade it, potentially. And then you have to watch another cutscene, which again, you can skip, but you do have to watch to get your one thing. And I want to stress this, one thing. So if you want to call out the black market dealer and kit yourself out with 3 weapons plus a vehicle, well, that's probably at least 5 minutes wasted, just in trying to prepare for your grand old adventure that you're setting yourself out on. And that is mind-blowingly awful. I have no idea why anyone thought that was a good idea. It's just slow and awful, and you can't just make a little shopping cart with 3 weapons and a vehicle. No, you have to order things one at a goddamn time, which wastes so much time. It's not even necessarily the best way to go about doing things. I mean, like I said, you could just go annoy a security officer, kill him, take his weapons, way faster, and way more fun. And in terms of vehicles, well, you can go and get them, like, anywhere. Sure, the black market dealers' vehicles are unique compared to the ones you find on the road, but they're on the road. You can just go and get them. They're free. It's way faster. On top of all of that, it's ignoring the whole base premise of you are equipped with a parachute and a grappling hook. You don't need anything else. Those are the best tools in your arsenal. You are your own vehicle. It's awesome. But if you really do want a vehicle, through the black market dealer, it sucks. Oh, and remember how I said you could upgrade weapons through the black market dealer? Well, you can do that with vehicles using special vehicle upgrade parts as well. However, because his vehicles are unique, the only time those upgrades will be applicable to a vehicle is if you order it through them. So yeah, you can't actually really get access to your unique upgraded vehicles unless you go through him, which wastes a lot of time, and I'd rather just go parachute around and get around that way. Basically, dealing with this guy sucks, and I have no idea why anyone would ever think this is a good, acceptable way to have the game set up. It's terrible. The next big issue is controls. The vehicles themselves control a little bit sloppily. It depends on what you get, of course. Driving a giant garbage truck is going to be a lot slower than, say, driving a little bike. In fact, the bikes control really well. It's the four-wheel vehicles that are a little bit awkward. In terms of flying around, though, helicopters and airplanes control really well. Controlling on foot is a little bit awkward, especially aiming the camera. Oftentimes, I'd eject out of like a plane and go skydiving, see another plane I could grapple to, try and aim at it, but the camera just wouldn't have any of that. And honestly, there is a button on the controller that does absolutely nothing. And I don't mean it's just not used. It's set to do something. If you press and hold, I want to say it's R1, you're supposed to run, except all it does is make you move the same speed as you were already, and it makes the camera shake a little bit. So that's not running, and I have no idea why someone thought that was a good sprint button. It doesn't work. But on the other hand, grappling hook and parachute, you're good to go. And that leads me to probably the best thing about Just Cause 2, which is not only do you have a huge open world, but it's huge and open world in all three dimensions. I mean, you are going all over the place on this. You're climbing on buildings, you're flying above them, you're flying through them, you're flying through the mountains, and it's a varied environment. So you've got stuff like a sandy desert to tropical rainforest, a city, giant mountains. The only thing it's missing is a volcano level. Holy crap, this game needs a volcano level, now that I say that. But it's a huge open world that you're just going to be all over the place in, so it really does justify the fact that there is a ridiculous amount of collectibles in this game. There's a ridiculous amount of places to put them and look and just go and adventure about. Really, if you're looking for an open world game that has damn near endless amounts of content and fun and just allows you to find your own cool moments, this is absolutely the game for you. Because this game is amazing like that. Now, the overall presentation to Just Cause 2 is, well, it's alright. Visually, the character models definitely look dated, but honestly, this game is really damn pretty. I mean, I typically record 4 to 8 hours of footage for these games, usually. I think I easily got twice as much for this one particular game, and at least a quarter of that is just me flying around looking at stuff and watching the weather patterns, which are unique in each area and move independently, as well as just watching like the sun reflect off water and flying through canyons and stuff. This game is just gorgeous. It may show its age in some respects, and yeah, it's not the most technically advanced, but it is beautiful. However, the audio is kind of lacking. The voice acting is just kind of straight up awful, and the overall soundtrack is almost pretty much non-existent. You get some music when you're being like hunted and you're trying to like assault a base or something, and you get a few jingles when you like complete an area, but for the most part, it's a pretty quiet game. And genuinely, this game needs a soundtrack. And just some suggestions for that: whenever you're in a four-wheel vehicle, because there's lots of like flipping and explosions, because every four-wheel vehicle is equipped with like C4 for some reason, they should be playing the A-Team theme. Whenever you're in a helicopter, it should absolutely play the Airwolf theme. I have tested that. It makes this game way better. And of course, whenever you're in a jet, it needs to be playing Danger Zone. But unfortunately, this game has basically no soundtrack, which really does hurt it. This game is really kind of just dull and quiet, and it absolutely is just begging for a soundtrack. Or like, at least a modifiable radio station in like your cars or like anything. But we do live in the age with iPods, so at the very least, we can make up our own, I guess. Now, if you want to get a copy of Just Cause 2, giant, amazing open-world sandbox boogaloo, it's actually not that hard to get. You can get it for about $15, and it's pretty common, which is good because it is ridiculously good, especially for a game that low price. In fact, personally, I've come across like 4 copies completely unintentionally. I might have to put one up for trade on the channel's support Discord, shameless plug. But the fact is, Just Cause 2 is an easy-to-get game. It's a really fun game, especially if you like open-world games that you can just mess around in. And genuinely, I think it's not only one of the best open-world games of this whatever generation you want to refer to it as, I think it's one of the best games, period, for whatever generation you want to refer to it as. But there is one issue, and that is Just Cause 3 exists. And in that respect, do I recommend this over Just Cause 3? A little bit yes, and a little bit no. Just Cause 3 plays better, has better production value, the overall mechanics are better, you've got more toys to play with. It's better in almost every respect except the world design, because Just Cause 3 feels like it's a much smaller world with much less densely packed things to do. So basically, in the time it takes to fly around like 12 different villages in this game, you'll come across maybe 4 in Just Cause 3. So it really depends on, do you want quality or quantity? Because this game definitely has quantity, comparatively anyway. It's still an excellent game. But either way, both are really recommended and you should absolutely get them. But as it stands, Just Cause 2 is absolutely amazing, and if you have any way of playing it, you absolutely need to play it because it is just insane, dumb, awesome fun.
Scorpio, get out before it blows.
And that concludes our broadcast day.